and with that, it's now time for us to bring to stage a compelling session in the Times Network presents Leadership Summit at Goafest 2022. This gentleman has been a part of our lives through inspiring characters on our screens, having appeared in more than 500 films, 100 plays, and win a film career spanning over 35 years. He is one of the most versatile actors, an acclaimed author, motivational speaker, and listed as one of the top 10 social media influencers in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome on stage Mr. Anupam Kher for a very, very compelling topic, bringing alive colossal creative vision. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the man. It's indeed a pleasure to have you, sir, and I have to say those are some really cool shoes. Very, very cool. All right, okay, with that, we will now bring on stage a man who made Thangabali a household name, even in the hinterlands of North India. Recipient of Padma Shri Award and a maverick Indian film. He surely needs no introduction. His films, like the Bahubali series and now RRR, have shown that films can achieve staggering pan-India success irrespective of the language or the market. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage and join me in giving a thunderous applause to S.S. Rajamouli. All right, I request all of you to please settle down. Give them a huge, huge, huge round of applause, please. And gentlemen, the stage is all yours.
Good evening, everybody. Now that I've showed off these glasses, can I take them off, please? This is to impress you, my friend. I'm very happy to be talking to you and having this conversation. I'll ask you before I proceed with my rest of my conversation with you, three small questions. So before I came and on stage, I prayed that this session goes off well. I did a little Google search on you, and 3 days back I saw your film. Did you do any of these things before coming here?
You had to do that because you don't know about me. I needn't do that because I know about you.
Oh. So, friends, do you know that right now there are at least 2,000 crores sitting on this stage? 350 crores of my film and rest of his is his film. So this is a rich stage. All these questions I have not prepared, but because I look at life from a sense of wonder. I was just giving an interview backstage to somebody. This summit is about superpower and things like that. Somebody came in backstage and said that, please remember that this is a superpower thing within, etc., etc. And you think of superpowers. You think of something which is so unimaginable, which is so larger than life, and then you actually execute that. So tell us, where does that first idea come from? Are you sleeping at the time? Are you walking? How does it happen? I'm personally very keen on knowing that.
Actually, it keeps happening all the time, sir. All the time most of my time, I'll be thinking about stories or sequences or either from the stories that I have heard or from the films that I have seen. And I mean, most of my time I keep thinking about films and ideas and how to make them work on screen. So it is not one particular time it suddenly comes to me. But when one idea gets really stuck in my head, that doesn't move away from me, that keeps on getting me back to the same idea again and again, then I think, yes, this is the story that I have to make for the screen. So that's how it happens.
So your first film was Student Number One. Did you make that film to survive, to sort of make it in the industry, or did the idea come to you and then you had to make a film?
At the time, I was not even prepared to become a director, sir. I mean, as a film director, I was directing a TV serial, and I thought I would make a couple of more serials, make some money, because to make trials for a film, then you won't have any work. So you have to survive. So at the time, my idea was I'll need at least 2-3 years to go in search of my first film, to convince some producer to make a first film with me. I thought I'd need 2-3 years. So I was not even prepared to direct the film at that time. But suddenly the opportunity came to me, and there was no second thought. I just jumped in and made it.
How were you as a student? How were you yourself in studies? Let me tell them before I have never got more than 38% marks. Never in my life. I was not good at studies. I was not good at sports. In fact, once my PT teacher saw me running and he said, "Stop, even if you run alone, you will come second." So, how were you as a student in studies or anything else?
I mean, it really depended on my teacher, sir. When I had a teacher, I remember my social studies and English teacher, Razia Sultana. She was my class teacher in 3rd and 4th. And when she was compassionate, when she was not she was not threatening me like other teachers who were like very threatening and very strict. If the teacher was not strict with me, I was very good with my studies. If the teacher was very strict with me, I was very bad at studies. So as a student, I ranged from getting 0 in maths in my 2nd class or 3rd class to scoring 100 in my 10th and inter. So it all depended on my teacher.
What was the name of that teacher? That lady who was good at?
Who was good? Razia Sultana. Her
Sorry?
teacher, Razia Sultana.
So here is to Razia. I think we should give her a big applause. And tell us something about your upbringing. These questions may appear very cliche questions, and you may be tired of answering these questions. But I am blocking the audience and only having you and wanting to know. And it's also my struggle to work with you in your next film. So then, and after some time, I'll take off my jacket and I'll show you that I have made a little muscles also. So tell us something about your upbringing, because you really, really have something. When I watched the film last week, RRR, Bahubali, I saw it in London. 2 also, I saw it in New York. The audience was going banana. Even I went with my friend Anil Kapoor and we were whistling. We were really, really. How many of you have seen RRR? So do you know how many of you know how to whistle like this? Can we have a light on this audience, please? Can we have the light on? Yeah, this is better. Yeah. Oh. So this is what was happening in the auditorium. This was so my questions come from there. I'm looking at a child who was, my imagination worked in Shimla where I come from. So what was your upbringing? Who was telling your stories? Was your mother telling you stories about Ramayana, Mahabharata or epics or something like that? Or your father? What was your young age like?
We were a joint family, sir. My father had 5 brothers and all of them were living together. I was in my second standard when my grandmother gave me the books of Ramayana and Mahabharata and Bhagavata and said, you have to read them. And I was introduced to that. And I was in around the same time, around second class or third class, when my father took me to the town library and introduced me to Amar Chitrakada. So that is where it started. I never stopped reading. The comics, the stories, the newspapers, whatever came to my hand, whatever I would lay my hands on, I would keep reading. And one interesting thing is my mother, she's an illiterate, but she used to speak very good English because she worked as under in Vizag there is a place called Caltex, and there was a general manager who came from US, and she worked as a nanny to his kids. So she used to speak very good English. So her thing was like, I should speak good English. I could never speak as good as English as her. But she always used to take me to English films so that I pick up a little. And she would always tell me only two things if I'm sitting idle. The only thing she didn't like me was sitting idle. So if she found me sitting idle, she would say, why don't you go out and play? Why are you sitting idle? And second thing is, she used to say, why don't you read some comics? Why don't you read some storybooks? She never, ever told me to do my homework or pick up the class books. She never did.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
Wow, that's so... So we have a similar background. I also was raised in a joint family. We'll talk about the benefits of joint family because somebody again asked me backstage. So we were very poor. We were a family of 14 people and lived in 1/8 of this stage. But we were very happy. And one day I asked my grandfather, I said, Dadaji, we are so poor, why are we happy? He said a fantastic answer. He said, when you're very poor, the cheapest luxury available is happiness. So that really took away the... So when somebody asked me, they did small podcast for the social media, they said, what is superpower for me? I thought superpower for me was my grandfather telling me that when you are very poor, the cheapest luxury is happiness. So I never got worried about that I did not have better clothes, that I did not have... And my father was so busy doing his job from 8 to 8 in the night that he had no time to see what I was studying. And all Mahabharata, Ramayana was introduced by... So today we are living in a world where we are singular families. We both discussed, what are the joys of a joint family?
I mean, it is so similar, sir, but we started off as a very rich family. My grandfather was a landlord, and my fathers owned 360 acres of land in a place in Karnataka. And by the time I was 10 or 11 years old, everything was sold out. They lost everything. And we went to Chennai in search of finding our footing in the film industry. Exactly. You were 14, you were saying. We were 13. And we were 13 members of our family living in one-bedroom apartment in Chennai. Wow. And I never, ever, I can't remember us being unhappy. There were troubles. I mean, every day we used to worry about how to pay the rent, what should we say when the landlord comes to collect the rent, what we would say. We never knew. But I remember all of us sitting together and making fun of ourselves. Like, how would the landlord come and how we will hide, how my father would go upstairs or my aunt will go backstairs and who will be facing him. And we used to make fun of it. I never remember being unhappy about that whole time.
You know, it's so amazingly similar. On the first, my father used to start hiding because the shopkeepers used to come for asking for money. So he will say, tell them I'm not at home. My brother actually told one thing, he's saying that he's not at home. And one day, I have to perform for you. One day, I was walking and he used to walk like this. So one day he started walking like this. I said, why are you walking like this? He said, I owe that shopkeeper some money, so he should not recognize me by my walk. So, I'll make it easy for you. When you think that I have said something nice, or he has said something nice, I'll scratch my head. That means that is your cue for clapping. Usually the backbenchers clap more because they have actually paid for the event. But in this case, it is the opposite. So maybe you have a backbenchers. Yes, we had a, one of my uncles, he failed in 8th standard 7 times. Oh. So he was promoted on compassionate grounds because his class fellows started calling him Uncle Ji. He grew beard sitting in the same class. But for me, those were characters. I had another uncle who bought a James Bond belt from somewhere. So when I went through horrible times after being a gold medalist in drama school and I was living in railway platform in Mumbai, I used to think like that life is beautiful story, that this is a story that is happening. Yes. So did that play an important role that you never felt that there was anything wrong going on? Did you feel depressed, sad, unhappy? No.
Never have I felt unhappy or depressed. I mean, only things when they were not in our control. When my mother had ill health, so those are the times that I was unhappy. Other than that, never was I ever depressed.
Fantastic. So who was the superpower? This is going on in my mind because the lady came in backstage. Who was the superpower in your joint family? Who was the person you looked up to? Like I looked up to my grandfather.
My bhabi, sir, my brother's wife.
Okay.
I mean, ours was like I was saying, big joint family, 5 brothers. We were 13 cousins. And at one point of time, my elder brother was the sole bread earner for all the family. And that was the time he got married. And she was 19 at the time. And she never had her husband or husband's money for herself. But she never cared about it. She took all our brothers and all her sisters. And all our brothers, all our cousins, we call her Amma. We don't call her Babi. We call her Amma. Amma.
Yes.
That's how we call her, and that's how she treated us. And by the time I was 22 or something, I was doing nothing. For 5 years, my father was after me to do, asking me to do something. So I was just slippery like eels, telling stories, that thing, and I was just being a vagabond, doing nothing. When my Babi said, she said just one word. When one of my aunts was scolding me that Rajamouli is good for nothing boy, that kind of thing, she said, she called me aside and said, I don't want my son to be called bad names by anyone. That's the only thing she said to me. And I suddenly started taking my life seriously and started working seriously.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. What does she say to you about your status now in life?
Now she always scolds me. Occasionally she gives me a hug. Once in a very, very, very long time, but most of the time she keeps scolding me.
I wonder. That's a beautiful story. So this is what I wanted to know. This is what makes Rajamouli the person that you are, that you remember. That's what life is all about. You remember. I remember each and every story. I do an autobiography of mine on stage about my failures. What is, according to you, failure? And how has it impacted you, or what is your definition of it? Or is there something which is failure which bothers you?
I mean, like, you'll understand better, sir. When we create something in our mind, There is no limit. We imagine it in the best possible way. But getting it to the screen, we have to go through so many processes. And many times, or sometimes, it might not be the same idea. It was not the same way that you imagined it to be. The overall film might work, but one scene or one song or one emotion or whatever was still not the way that what you imagined it to be. So that itself is a failure. The film not doing well is a larger sense of failure or success, but every day you have failures and successes. One day we plan 12 shots to be shot that day. For whatever reason, we won't be able to do it. That's a failure. So whenever a failure occurs, you study it. You just don't ignore it. You study it. You realize what went wrong with it and try to correct it the next day or the next instance or the next moment. Yeah, failures are, like they say, they're the big teachers, better teachers than the successes.
I'll tell you a very interesting story about how my father got me rid of my failure. As I said to you that I was not good at studies, so in 9th standard, in every standard, we had to take our report card to our father, and he had to sign it for the principal and the school teacher to show. So I took my report card. My mother was very strict. She will slap me even when I was in final year. But my father was very kind. So I went to him and I said, you please sign it. So he looked at my grade and he said, you are 59th in the class? I said, yes. He said, how many students are there in the class? I said, 60. Now I thought he's going to get upset with me. So he said, I think a person who comes first in sports or in studies is always tense about coming first. Even if he comes second, he feels that he has demoted himself. But a person who has come 59th can always come 48th, 37th, 23 or 16th. So do me a favor, next time come 49th in the class. And then he said something very nice. He said, remember, failure is an event, never a person. Yeah. So for a 15-year-old boy, to take away the fear of failure was, I think, amazing. That really took away. My mind is racing through so many things. I remember Makhi. How did the idea of Makhi come to you? I saw it in Chennai only when it came. It was phenomenal because somebody said, "Ek Makhi ke upar film hai, super hit hai." Makhi ke upar kya film ho sakti hai? And then I saw it. How did the idea of Makhi come to you?
Again, my father, sir. My father is the story writer.
Of course, I met him. Wonderful.
Yeah, and he narrated me a story 10 years before Makhi was made. He narrated me an idea would be reborn and it will start irritating the villain. We found it hilarious because when you live in villages, we know how the flies bother you in the most uncomfortable situations. So I could immediately connect to the idea. Never ever had I thought that people would find it stupid. I thought people would find it hilarious. Once I started the film, many people said it's quite a stupid idea. But because I had a string of successes earlier, they thought, okay, this guy might do something with it. They had no idea what I would do. But I was always very confident that I have a great story on hand and just went ahead with it. For me, sir, very frankly, whether it's Bahubali or Makhi, there's no difference for me. The level of excitement that I have, the amount of hard work or commitment that I give to the film, it is the same. There is no difference.
Are you a perfectionist?
I mean, people term me as perfectionist because I take so much of time, but I'm far from it.
But you're not, because I personally feel that perfectionist people are very unhappy. This is because they look at it, oh, I have not kept the glasses right, this should have been like this. You are a...
That's OCD, sir. I don't have an OCD.
No, perfectionist is also this is, no? Because, so when you make a film, it looks like a person who believes in perfection.
Yeah, I would like to be everything to be perfect, but I know that everything can't made. get closer to perfection, but nothing can be, nothing ever can be perfect.
What is a shortcoming that you have?
Sir?
What is your shortcoming? What is your negative point?
Shortcoming, I didn't work too much as an assistant director. So the basic shot making is my shortcoming. In the sense, when I made my first film, Student Number 1, I didn't know how to use a crane because I never used a crane in my in my TV serial. Yeah. So likewise, I didn't know, I still don't know what shot exactly gives me what I need. Suppose I have a close-up of you listening to me and I want to have a yeah. Historical moment. Yeah, tell me, you were talking about my close-up. Yeah. So, stick to that close-up. Yeah, close-up, sir. I get so many doubts whether I should keep the camera standard, should I move the track in slowly? So how close should I really get? Close to the eyes, close to the face? Should I go a little bit topish? No. There are thousands and thousands of options that run through my mind. I don't know which is the right thing to do, exact right thing to do. So every moment I worry about my shots. And when I see directors who are very confident, very clear about what they want, for example, my mentor, Kher, he has directed more than 100 films. He's like, he clearly knows what he wants. He just places the camera and starts taking. I get so, yeah, like you said, that is my shortcoming. I can't decide which is the right camera angle.
I personally feel that's a plus point as a filmmaker, because that is what makes your work fluid. That's what makes it believable. Because it's not that we have, means with all due respect to all the directors that I've worked with, but there are certain directors who tell you how to give a shot. And they are so, but they may, I personally feel a little bit of gray makes it believable. That's what I think it is. But I loved the moment when you were directing me right now. I was thinking that whether I'm giving the right shot or not. An actor is always looking for work. Always. And I'm the kind of, even now I ask for work. How do you deal with actors? Because actors are very fragile. They are putting their whole trust into the director's hands. They come from home, they come with the feeling of, today I have to portray this scene. They're actually inside very nervous. And you seem to deal with your actors brilliantly. In fact, one of my friends, Ashok Pandit, says you are a sadhu. So I said, okay, I'll ask him this question. How do you understand the psyche of an actor?
Actually, I don't, sir.
Okay.
First thing, I don't.
Fantastic.
But after I answer this question, I want to ask you a question. In my initial days, when I imagine a particular scene or emotion, I had a very clear-cut idea about how the actor should perform for that particular emotion to come onto the screen that way I want to. So I was very adamant on what I wanted, how they should sit, how they should walk, how should they perform. And if I'm not getting it right, I would perform myself and show them and do exactly this. Slowly, I realized that all my actors are looking the same, because all my actors are imitating what I was doing. Of course, the film was working because of different other things. Okay, then I thought, see, why I am going to a particular actor is because he has a specific ability. Then slowly, I started developing, hammering the emotion into the actor. And we also do workshops, sir. From Bahubali, we started doing these workshops, at least with the main actors, that writing everything about that character. Like if, let's say, Amarendra Bahubali is there. In the film, you see him as a 10-year-old boy, and then you see him as a 24-year-old, 20, whatever age, as a young man. But when we do the workshop, we write everything about him. as a child, what was he? What were his likes? What would he eat?
Backstory, the whole backstory.
Not just backstory, sir, the characterization, entire characterization. I mean, we used to go to the lengths of what are his sexual likes and dislikes. That has got nothing to do with the story. But as a director and actor, we need to understand everything about that character. What are his beliefs? Why did he come to believe? And how did he change as a 17-year-old to a 25-year-old? And we start write everything about that character. There was one person who would ask us questions, and we have to answer him.
You have to answer
the character. And then I hammer my emotion into the actor and just sit back and let him perform.
I have a feeling that I will be experiencing that very soon. I was just handed over a paper which says running out of time. I'll ask you two last small
My question is there.
Sorry.
I wanted to ask you a question. There are some very bad actors and there are some very good actors. When I want something to be, some emotion to be carried out by the actor, a bad actor doesn't perform. His face is blank. I mean, there are some actors who overact. Let's keep them aside. And there's some actors who are not able to move their facial muscles at all. They just go blank. Then I realized some good actors, like what the expression that I see on your face now. There is so much I can read out of it. But if I ask, it's a blank face. I was just noticing one of the shots that was played on the screen, one of your shots. You're just sitting there. If I just take a click of that picture, it's a blank face. But there is so much emotion coming out of it. A bad actor has a blank face. A very good actor has a blank face. But as audience, you can see the emotion coming out of a blank face on a good actor, but not on a bad actor. What is the difference?
I think it's the life the person has lived. It's the life that he creates on screen. I live every moment of my life. For me, life is a journey, not a destination. And I'm not scared of failure. So I am ready to give my truth. Also, the camera captures truth, Ingrid Bergman said. So you can't camouflage. I have nothing to camouflage. But thank you for asking me that question. What makes you happy?
Present, the success of my film makes me happy.
That makes two of us.
All right.
Okay, I think on that note, I think we should call it end of this. And that's wonderful talking to you. I had just begun, but I think we can go on and on for hours and hours together. But thank you, Goafest people, for giving me an opportunity to have a conversation with one of the most sincere people and one of the most prolific directors. Thank you, Rajamouli, for talking to me. Thank you so much.